kicking off this week's edition of AEW Dynamite, the new number one contender for the AEW World Championship, MJF, defeated 1/3 of SCU's Scorpio Sky in 11 minutes 31 with pinfall after a Swanton Bomb. We need to change that. And in this match also Wardlow, as expected, did interfere, which inevitably cost Scorpio Sky the match against the number one contender. So MJF got an in-ring performance of 64, very similar, but we after the match we move into our next segment, which is a promo from MJF. After the match, MJF kisses his Dynamite Doesn't Ring, which he used to defeat Sky with, putting his middle finger up at crowd members. He calls for a mic. Jon Moxley, you are without a shadow of a doubt one of the greatest wrestlers of this generation, and with that AEW World title around your waist, you are untouchable. Well, with the exception of one guy. Me, Maxwell Jacob Freeman. Last week I showed why I'm the fastest rising star in all of professional wrestling. Tonight, I proved it again. I shouldn't have been in that battle royal, seeing as I'm unbeaten here in AEW. But that's beside the point. I overcame 9 other swine to become your new number one contender. John, back at Double or Nothing last year, you declared war on the AEW roster. And it's been easy for you this past year, but last week, war came to you. Jon Mox's music plays and he swaggers through the crowd with the AEW World Championship on his shoulder. At the same time, Wardlow steps into the ring to stand alongside MJF. So, as expected, we get quite a high segment rate for this, a 76 for MJF. It's advancing the storyline nicely as it's gaining heat for the World Championship. As we move into the next segment with Moxley then. So Moxley slowly steps into the ring with the mic in his hand. MJF, Maxwell Jacob Freeman. Well done, John. You know my name. Let's give her a round of applause, everyone. This thick numbskull has done his research. You can just imagine Moxley with a grin on his face. And he goes on to say, I understand I've had a big target on my back ever since I won this title back at Revolution. But there's only one thing that separates me from that. You can F10 me as many times as you like onto the commentary desk. You can hit me with the steel chair as many times as you like. Put me through a goddamn table. I don't care, because I'm Jon fucking Moxley. I will always keep getting back up. So, it's nice to meet you, Maxwell. MJF and Wardlow go to attack, but quickly stop themselves. They just laugh at Moxley and exit the ring. As they make their way up the ramp, Moxley lifts his title above his head, so we get a really good rating, really strong start to the show. These 3 segments, we got an 83 for this one with the inclusion of Moxley. And we move in to the next segment. The camera pans around to the commentary table where JR, Excalibur and Tony Schiavone are sat. Well, welcome to this show, this episode of AEW Dynamite, folks. What a way to kick things off. And let me tell you, there is plenty more to come. You're right, Jim. After what happened between Private Party and Death Triangle last week, both teams will face each other in tonight's main event in a 6-man tag. Private Party still haven't announced their third partner though. I guess we'll have to wait and see. And Excalibur. And after last week's debut, FTR, Dax Harwood and Cash Wheeler will step into the ring for the first time tonight, which is up next actually, against the Butcher and the Blade. It seemed that FTR was about to join forces with Butcher and Blade last week, but that wasn't the case as FTR turned on them and stared down the Young Bucks. Some interesting developments to say the least, and I can't wait to see what else happens here tonight. So we get a 55 for that. So taking a look at our card then, a bit later on tonight, we're also going to see the in-ring debut of Zeta Zhang here in AEW. That's one to look forward to. Also the main event between Private Party and a partner of their choosing against their Death Triangle, Pac, Pentagon Jr., Rey Fenix. Also, Jeff Cobb will take on Darby Allin in what I'm sure will be quite the match. Be a clash of styles there. And up next, the Butcher and the Blade against the debuting FTR. In a decent match, FTR, of course, they had to. It's their first in-ring match here in AEW. They go on to defeat the Butcher and the Blade in 13:23 when Dax pinned the Blade after a shatter machine. So a double tag team finishing move with FTR. Do need to change the name of that, but it was Dax with the best performance, the best in-ring performance, picking up a 71 with Cash Wheeler not far behind with a 68. Butcher and the Blade still have a lot of work to do, but 59, it's acceptable. It's a decent tag team match, nothing to complain about. And after the match, after FTR pick up their first win, both Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, step into the ring. Matt Jackson has a mic in his hand, but before he speaks, both teams just continue to stare one another down. Matt just nods and then says, "You're finally here then. After all the talk, all the speculation, you're both finally here. We finally get to meet you face to face. Let's introduce ourselves. I'm Matt Jackson. This is my brother Nick. We're the Young Bucks. We're the team that's been carrying tag team wrestling on our backs for the past decade. We're the best in the goddamn world. So welcome to AEW." Cash Wheeler asks for the mic off Matt and he hands it over reluctantly, and he goes on to say, "Oh, certainly looks like you're the best. I should say you're not the best. Where's your gold? We're not here for that though, just yet. We're here for ... Then they get cut short. Cash Wheeler does anyway, as before Cash could even finish, the Butcher and the Blade attack Cash and Dax from behind. Cash and Dax roll out of the ring, and the Butcher and the Blade then receive a double super kick from Matt and Nick. The Bucks stand tall and stare down a retreating FTR. So this one gets a segment rating of 65. Dax Hardwood, Nick Jackson. Dax was underwhelming. Nick Jackson didn't really do well going off script. Anyway, we roll in to the next segment, and backstage, Frankie Kazarian is shown where officials have just found him bloody and unconscious. The apparent victim of a sneak attack. Paramedics appear to stretcher him out. Just gets to 57. Frankie Kazarian, who's attacking, or who's attacked 1/3 of SCU. And up next we see Cody. He's seen walking backstage, heading towards Tony Khan's office. This gets 70 just for being Cody Rhodes and acting attributes, those skills that he has. Cody was superb working without scripts, didn't really need a script anyway. He was just walking into an office, but does its job, as we'll hear from him a bit later this evening as we move into the next segment. Everybody Dies plays, and all of a sudden Michael Nakazawa is slung from the entranceway. Lance Archer is following from behind, and he has Rick Knox, the referee, with him. He's shouting at Knox, "Get in the ring and start this match," and Archer grabs Michael Nakazawa, drags him to the ring. Jake Roberts watches on from the entranceway, looking a little concerned for Michael Nakazawa, and DDP comes out and looks at Jake. Looks like he's questioning Jake. Jake just shrugs, and as Rick Knox rings the bell, this gets a 48 then. Archer clearly enjoyed having the freedom to go off script, performing well. DDP improvising well, so did Jake Roberts. So we head into that match then that Lance Archer's just thrown together, quite literally, and it's an extremely short one. It finishes with 32 seconds after a quick blackout from Lance Archer to Michael Nakazawa. 52. Lance Archer getting a bonus for star quality there, is that Squash Master attribute, getting a bonus for that. It's also the first time I've used Nakazawa in this series. After the match, Lance Archer proceeds to walk back up the ramp. Kenny Omega walks out, glances at both Jake Roberts and Diamond Dallas Page, who are discussing something. Then he passes Lance Archer. They both take a moment to look at one another. Then Kenny continues to the ring in aid of his friend Michael Nakazawa, who is obviously beat up and hurt. And Jake Roberts did not do well without script. I thought he improvises well without script, Jake, so I'm not sure what that's all about. But involving Kenny, it's something that we've seen in real life on AEW towards the end of last year in real life. He would come out to the aid of a few superstars that were getting beat down. Anyway, we roll into the next segment. Before the next women's match, the next match of the card, just like last week, the AEW Women's Champion Hikaru Shida comes to sit alongside the commentary team. And it is Sada Zhang's debut. She is up against Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. And in a terrible match, it's Britt Baker that picks up the win. So Zayda Zhang not successful on her debut, unlike Allysin Kay last week, who picked up her first win here in AEW. Zayda Zhang with a 38, Britt Baker with a 39, so pretty decent. Got a 30 overall, the segment rating. Announcing quality lifted the match, and so did the colour commentary as well. After the match, Britt Baker is celebrating in the ring, but stops when she notices someone sat in the crowd. She looks like she's seen a ghost. The camera pans around to focus on none other than Crazy Mary Dobson. She's smiling and does a little wave at Britt. She stands up and proceeds to walk out the arena. So a 38, and Mary Dobson debuting her extremist gimmick. She's got a great reception for that, as you would expect, formerly known as Sarah Logan in the WWE. This one gets a segment rating of 31, so we're slowly starting kind of a revolution now for the women's division, starting to find a bit of momentum, starting to really go for it, building that division up. So Mary Dobson is all elite. As we roll in to the next segment, backstage, Kenny Omega is aiding his friend Nakazawa along with AEW doctors when he spots Hangman Page. He says, "Hey, can you help us?" Hangman Page winces and then says, "Sorry man, I've been signed to the main event tonight. I gotta go get ready." Kenny Omega is taken aback and he says, "Oh yeah? When did this happen?" Our pals Private Party decided to challenge Death Triangle after what happened last week, and Tony Khan sanctioned it, and they needed one more guy to make up the numbers. They picked me, seeing as we got on so well, sharing a few drinks, you know. Kenny Omega, right, well, I'm a bit busy anyway. I'm going to take Naka to the hospital after what Archer did to him, just to get him checked over. See you later. We got an 80 here. It's always a fantastic segment rating for these two. The World Tag Team Champions. It does advance the storyline. Omega comes across well. Benefit from having the groundswell of support. Enjoy having the freedom as well. The angle got the crowd hotter. There were no negatives either. Hangman getting a bonus for high morale, good momentum. Same for Kenny Omega. So our main event tonight then, it's been confirmed that Hangman Page will team up with Private Party to take on the Death Triangle. So we roll into the next segment. And what's this? Christopher Daniels is now shown backstage, where officials have just found him bloody and battered, the apparent victim of a sneak attack. He is stunned but conscious, but does not know who attacked him. So that's 2/3 of SCU that have been attacked here on AEW Dynamite. Who is going around and attacking SCU? I'm sure we're going to find out as we move into our next segment, as Judas plays, every crowd member singing along. What have I become? Chris Jericho walks out slowly wearing his bandana around his neck, a shiny new jacket, a baseball bat with the Inner Circle emblem printed on it, and a smirk on his face. He heads over to the commentary table and picks up a headset. JR, Excalibur and Tony Schiavone, or Schiavone, aren't sure why Jericho is out here, and he goes on to say, "Didn't your mama ever tell you it was rude to stare? Shut your ass, all of you. Tonight, the Inner Circle take over, and you're all about to find out how." So this gets a 71. Jericho improvising well. Great gimmick, great heel. It's just fantastic, isn't he, Chris Jericho? So a good start as we head into our next match then between Darby Allin and Jeff Cobb. In a good match, Jeff Cobb defeated Darby Allin in 12:04 after a tour of the islands, a devastating tour of the islands, followed by interference from Jake Hager. Darby Allin getting a 75 for in-ring performance, and it's nice to note that Allin and Cobb have pretty good chemistry, which did lift the match, so that's something to take note of. Cobb getting a bonus for going all out. Normally you see they get penalised for going all out or trying to go all out, but that wasn't the case for this. It gets a 68, which I'm happy with. It's a decent match, but after the match, Jeff Cobb continues to beat down on Darby Allin. Jake Hager steps up into the ring as Chris Jericho makes his way down to the ring with his baseball bat. Hager hits the Hager bomb on Darby, followed by a tour of the islands from Cobb. It's the second he's been handed. Poor Darby. Cobb and Hager both hold Darby up, and Jericho is about to swing the bat at Darby when Matt Hardy comes racing from the entranceway. He slides in the ring and tries to ward off the Inner Circle and Jeff Cobb, but the numbers game is too much. It's always too much. Jericho hammers the bat into the midsection of Darby, then does the exact same to Matt Hardy. Cobb and Hager hold Hardy up and Jericho glances the bat off his head, busting him wide open. Darby slowly gets back to his feet. Jericho spots him, drops the bat and hits a devastating Judas effect. Jericho's looking at the camera and saying, "Jeff Cobb, the baddest man in AEW, is now officially in a circle, baby." So Jeff Cobb is now officially a part of the Inner Circle. So back when we saw Jeff Cobb in real life with the Inner Circle, he was just known as the bounty hunter for the Inner Circle. He wasn't, well, as we know, he's not officially a part of the Inner Circle, but because I've signed him here in TEW 2020 for AEW, he's now part of the Inner Circle. And we roll into the next segment, so it's still kind of latching on to what we've just seen. After the beatdown, Jericho, Cobb and Hager head up the ramp, the camera still following. They walk through the entranceway towards the gorilla position. Jericho is walking with a chip on his shoulder, with both Cobb and Hager flanking him. He looks at a tech guy. "Hey, what's your name?" "I don't care, shut your ass. The Inner Circle are back and you better believe it." They continue walking. Jericho says to anyone in earshot, "It's so quiet back here." Everyone speechless. "What just happened, huh?" "Oh yeah, the Inner Circle are back." They walk a little further and pass by Brody Lee, who just stands there smartly dressed, who is flanked by Evil Uno and Stu Grayson, staring at Jericho with a slight smile on his face. Jericho sizes him up and continues walking, saying he deserves some respect for being AEW's first ever world champion. He's still waiting for his thank you. The Inner Circle are back, and the camera watches Jericho walk off, then pans round to focus on Brody Lee. So a 77 just for including Jericho and Brody Lee in this segment. I wonder what it could mean. Just that little stare down, planting the seeds. You guys will just have to stay tuned to find out what happens. But the Inner Circle are back. As we move into our next segment then, and it's a quick promo which plays, and it's a mysterious one. And the words are shown, "We have awoken." Emphasis on the "we" there. So again, we're just planting the seeds. You guys just going to have to stay tuned as we move in to our main event of the evening with TV time remaining. It's a good match, and it's Hangman Page and Private Party defeating the Death Triangle of Rey Fenix, Pentagon Jr. and Pac in 13 minutes 47, when Mark Quinn submitted Rey Fenix. Not something you'd see every day. It got a segment rating of 78, one of our better matches so far here in AEW in this series. Hangman Page with a 72, Pentagon Jr. 71, Rey Fenix with a 77. Although Pac was really off his game, that's a shame to see, because normally Pac is up there in the 80s with his in-ring performance, and being our TNT champion now as well. Don't think that title's been forgotten. Let's have a quick look at the dirt sheet. Any negatives? We just get the two there. Pac holding back and was penalised for his inconsistency. But yeah, really good match. Really happy with that, the turnout. And after the match, Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn are celebrating. Hangman Page steps out the ring for a moment to collect a beer from the crowd member, picking back up where we left off before we had lockdown and all that. He climbs back in and raises it to Private Party, shakes their hands, picks up his tag team title, and walks out as Private Party continue to celebrate. So we're advancing the storyline once again, and I'm so happy to see that both Isaiah Cassidy and Mark Quinn, Mark Quinn working well without script, and Isaiah Cassidy doing a masterful job of improvising with the crowd. And up next to finish the show, we have a message from AEW EVP Cody. So Cody is shown backstage, dressed smartly, and sat behind a huge desk in the AEW management's office. CM Punk, I know you're watching at home, and I'd like to take the moment to apologise for my comments last week. Last week I said that maybe it wasn't such a good idea bringing you to AEW. Little did I know, until Tony Khan informed me it was in your contract that you had agreed that no ill word can be said about you on camera. See, the thing is, me and Tony Khan spent weeks upon weeks going over the pros and cons of you here in AEW and what you could bring to the table, what you could offer, and how we know you could offer a lot. You have one of the sharpest minds in this business, a mind that would make AEW even stronger. So next week, Phil, I want you to come here on Dynamite. I want us to iron things out and start again. Or so we could be seeing CM Punk on AEW Dynamite for the first time since his debut back at All Out next week. And this segment getting a 79 thanks to Cody. It advances the storyline, cult of personality. The performance of Cody was good. Cody benefited from having a groundswell of support. And it was Arn Anderson that there was the road agent for this one. I was a bit hesitant putting this on last, but I felt it was only right as having CM Punk would be quite a draw for AEW. So we need to make it feel just that little bit special. So having it go on after the main event, I think was the right call. And after that, then we get 76 for this week's episode, this week's edition of Dynamite. Had a strong start. What Mox and MJF are going to be able to come out with over the course of the next few months is hopefully going to be pure gold. Obviously highlighting the tag team and also the inner circle segments, helping bump our rating up to 76. So we've already had a 76 for Dynamite a couple of weeks ago. I think it was just before All Out. Hopefully we can get slightly higher than that on the road to Full Gear. Anyway, let's go and find out how we did with the TV ratings this week. So we had a 76, we got a 1.84 TV rating with a total of 1.38 mil viewers. I wonder how NXT did. At the moment, TV ratings since the start of this series, we are currently beating them 3-2. I'm going to have to put a graphic together, come up with something just so we can log these ratings and how well we're doing week after week. And NXT this week have beaten us, so it's all square. It's 3-3 as they got a show rating of 78. Their show achieved a 1.94 TV rating and they had a total of 1.5 million viewers. What happened on their show then that really stands out? Ciampa and Kushida defeating Gargano and Austin Theory. Adam Cole losing to Phantasma, getting an 80, and so did the interview with Shawn Michaels. They're just using Michaels and Triple H just to up their ratings. It's cheap. But anyway, that's going to be it for this episode of AEW Dynamite. Hope you guys have enjoyed, and I'll see you all soon for AEW Dark.